Happy Hump Day. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, CHR, Chromia, Nord Finance, and Epic Prime. So taking a look at Bitcoin here, if you've been tuning in for the last few days specifically, I haven't updated the last TikToks, but from Friday, we essentially, on my last TikTok posted, we were looking for these doomsday levels, right, to kind of get reclaimed. We were looking for upside around this 39K level and clearing above this 41 to consider these moves to the upside at the time, right? We kept kind of hitting our head on this level right here around the first. Came back down, hit this weekly pivot last week, and basically just took off from there. So since then, we've essentially blasted right through these levels. 39K, 39.8 was essentially a really big level for us. This was a 2-year key level here for us, 24-month key level. This was also essentially, let me take a look here. This was also our previous yearly range low. So essentially this re-entered us into last year's range. That range ranges from about $40,000 upwards to 64K. Obviously there's a lot of ground to cover in the meantime to start looking up towards those levels. So we'll just take it level by level here. Right now we've got the current range that we're sitting in. We've got our range low, our range high. We've got our point of control right here, our volume target. It was originally an NPOC, so that makes this a very desirable target at the time. As you can see, we blasted straight to it when we did come through these levels. Came right through to this volume target, the point of control. Let's see here. Now currently, we've got a new weekly pivot that is generated. So like I said last week, this was actually not only our range low, but this was our weekly pivot as well. So this was our average of price from the previous week. So that's what we have here as well. This was just generated on Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern when the weekly closes. And we tend to see a revisit to these levels, not guaranteed, but if you start losing, this point of control, I would be definitely considering this pivot here. We discussed this yesterday. This is about $40,500. This is also where the CME futures gap resides, right? So a lot of people are got their eye there. If we do come down to this level, I imagine people will be loading up, taking longs, assuming that when the CME futures gap fills, that we would just kind of turn around from there. Losing this level, and I'd be looking for this range low, right, that we've been that we just kind of re-entered. So similar to over here, right, when we re-entered this range, you got this run up and you kind of came back and you held the lows, and then we took off from there. That could be a similar scenario that plays out to the downside if we do start losing this point of control. The local level we're at right now, this is the 4-hour time frame, so we're sitting right on the 4-hour 20 EMA. Generally holds as pretty good support. You got our 55 EMA right below that, which is actually below our point of control as well. So you got some nice supports below us if we start coming back down a little bit. We did just run up about 40% for Bitcoin, so not unheard of to get this little local top for a minute and possibly see about 10-15% down. But also, when we get these rips to the upside too, a lot of people are waiting for a pullback, looking for a pullback, hoping for a pullback. Sometimes we don't get them right away, right? So very, very similar to what we saw back in October last year, right? That was a really good example when we just basically launched from 40, what was that, 42, 43K, basically to 48. Kind of stagnated up here for a minute. Everybody's looking for a pullback, just ran again, looking for a pullback, ran again, got a small pullback, but pretty much just was where it was, and continued from there. July, right, when we got that July launch last year as well, kind of just shot right out of the lows. I mean, a pretty big rally up to the upside. Anybody that was on the sidelines obviously was scared to get in after a 43% pump. We were looking for a pretty decent pullback. You did get somewhat of a pullback here. Nothing probably to the point where most wanted, right? You're probably looking for some pretty decent pullbacks there, but this did kind of come up. We printed our higher high on the daily time frame, printed our higher low, essentially just launched our daily uptrend here, and then away we went. Kind of looking to put in something similar like that for Bitcoin now, right? So we're looking for this uptrend to kind of get confirmed here. Unlike Ethereum and some of the altcoins, Bitcoin is starting to put in some higher highs on the lower time frames. Hasn't necessarily it might have actually printed a higher high very slightly yesterday on a daily. I'll take a look. But essentially, we're coming, we're turning around here more than likely, right? We got a low right here So as long as you don't come back out and take out this low, essentially you can come down to this point of control, you can come down to this pivot, you can come down to this previous yearly range low, and you can really come down to the monthly open. We really want to stay above this monthly open. Multiple reasons there. Obviously, that's a key level as well. That would also be coming in right here at this previous resistance, so that would hold that as support. This would be a beautiful high or low, right? And any of these really, right? We could turn around at basically any spot. So you want to, just kind of pay attention to how these things react right here. But basically, as long as you're holding above this monthly open, you're in pretty good shape. And that does give us some wiggle room, right? That takes us all the way down to 38,500 if we were to go that low. Now on a mental level, that would probably drive people absolutely mental, right? To see an under 40K Bitcoin. We may not get that though, right? I'm not saying that that's a guarantee by any means, but if we do come down to that low of a level at this time, nothing to fear, right? That would actually be a really decent pullback, about 15%. But once again, we may not get that. We may not even come back down to this weekly pivot. Essentially, we came up to these range highs, right? We got rejected there. A perfect rejection right here at the range high. And we're basically consolidating right under resistance. So a lot of times we see that. We do actually come back out and we take out this high and we move on. What we're looking for to see continuation to the upside, right? You want to take out this range high at about 45K. We're going to be moving on to the upside. Next really big target to the upside here is going to be around $47,000. Right there, 47,700 is going to be our yearly key level there, right there. So that'll be the next major target, breaking 45K. After that, we've got some NPOCs, which are volume targets above. One of them comes in about 49. Obviously, once again, it's not going to be a straight up move, just as similar as this, right? This point of control was a major target, and then you got your range highs as a major target. You see how both of them were respected, but this was not a overnight move here. Actually, it might have been overnight. Now that I look at it. All right, this is 4 days, right? 4 days to get to these two, next major targets here. Probably going to, consolidate here for a hot minute. And then, like I said, you got risk of coming back down to this point of control and the weekly pivot, which is also that CME futures gap. This point of control would probably be a really good level to kind of keep an eye on. I think a lot of people, this point of control, this weekly pivot / CME futures gap, I think a lot of people are going to be paying a lot of attention to this. And it's just going, whether we hit that and that is our turnaround, it might not be the thing, right? We might be kind of turning around at this point of control as people wait for this level right here, or we'll probably fall a little bit further down, assuming people are going to probably load up on some longs right here. This could be a good market maker short to kind of take us down a little bit more. But once again, living above that monthly open, and we're not in bad shape. And that's basically it for Bitcoin, right? That's pretty much where we were yesterday as well. We came up, we tagged that high, and you got two things you're looking for, right? Looking on clearing this range high to move to the upside, basically. And if we're moving to the downside, look for this point of control, about 42K. Look for this weekly pivot, CME futures gap, about 40,500. Look for this previous yearly low, coming in about 39.5. And then you got the monthly open at 38.5. Any of those levels turn around from, I would imagine we're going to come back through and take out this high. As always, the current range lows, though, are always on the table. You got about 36,700 there. And realistically, as long as you don't take out this previous low, you won't be continuing, you won't be starting up a downtrend at this time. So pretty much Bitcoin there. How is the RSI, fear and greed? You can look at this at any time. Easy Google search, but right now it's sitting at neutral, so heading towards the greed sector. It's about 54. But like I said, realistically, regardless, you got two things to look for here. You look for right now we're sitting at about 40. Yeah, we're at 44,000. So give or take another $1,000. Start closing candles above that, and then we'd be looking for upside towards that 47K next key level. Otherwise, you start dropping down here. Look for these levels right here. So we'll take a look at ETH real quick. Super Bowl. What is up with the I've not ever heard of a Super Bowl rally or whatever this is. So I keep seeing everybody talk about the Super Bowl. Is it because of the commercials that'll be on there for crypto? we get a super, if that is a thing, that'd be awesome. I guess I'll have to look into that. But I've literally never heard of a Super Bowl rally. Santa rally, yeah, Super Bowl rally. That's if that's what everybody's talking about. I just keep seeing Super Bowl rally or Super Bowl this or that. I'm assuming because of commercials. All right, so yeah, basically Bitcoin. Those are the levels to look for. If we blow through 47K, which, you know what? Let's talk about this for 2 seconds, actually. So I want to put a good example here, right? So looking back, say we start running it back a bit. Regardless if we're going to come up and make an all-time high or anything like that, I want to point your attention to probably the most explosive time that we've had. I guess it's not the most explosive, but the 2 recent ones, let's just say that. So we've got this run up from July through basically November, right? And then you have also previously back in last year, you got the run up from end January to, I guess end of April. So about 3 or 4 months in that aspect. And then, back last year, in order to essentially come back to these high levels, we had a pretty decent run. And if we see something like this again, fully anticipate something like this again too, right? So it's not necessarily that we're going to go from the lows. If we do start continuing higher, put in this daily uptrend and everything like that, more than likely we're still going to have like one of these, 3-week pullbacks at some point, especially if we get a really big rally. But whatever, like getting ahead of ourselves in that aspect. But just in general, just a little idea here, right, is that these run-ups, just like the run-downs, right, this was almost 100 days to the downside. And then, mind you, in 12 days, we saw a 40% rally. Granted, when you're going down versus going up, it is not the same, right? Because now to get from here to here, that's like a 400%, blah, blah, blah. Not a 400%, 100% flip, obviously, for altcoins and anything like that. If you've been holding, obviously, if you're down 50, 60, percent or anything like that. So most of them are starting to come back by now, but you need a couple 100% to make up when you're down 50, 60, 70, is kind of what I'm saying there, right? So it took us about 100 days to drop from this high down to this, if this was the low, right? We still don't really know that yet, but we're starting to see some signs of, reversal here, putting in these higher highs and whatnot. Just want to point out that in this previous drop, about the same deal. This was about 100 days to the downside, which was terrible. Like this, we think that the current time frame is bad. At least it's been somewhat exciting, even though it's been a total bloodbath to the downside. At least we got just a little move side, little move side, little move side. This one was just a straight up rip and then completely sideways for like the majority. This was way longer, way more pain, in my opinion. Even though it feels like the last 100 days or 90 days has been a lifetime, this one I believe was truly worse. But we'll see how things play out here. But do note that the run up here from the July lows even back up to just a September high, this was a month basically, which obviously isn't that long of a time frame. So that's about that took about 50 days actually. That took a little bit of a month and a half almost to get to this next little run up here. You got pullbacks along the way, but this was a really great time, for the altcoins, for everything, right? As the market's kind of pulling up, we did have about a 20-day pullback right here. Obviously, that wasn't the best. A lot of altcoins, not the biggest crash we've had, obviously, but definitely not a great time. And then from there, we had another, let's say 50, 60 days. Okay, 40. So 40 days to the upside there. So it took us essentially from this low about 100 days of upside. And I'm not pointing out like to get new all-time highs, whatever. But what I'm pointing out here is that you got, we came down, and once again, this has just been a huge gaping range at this point. You dropped 100 days, right? We rallied 100 days. Well, we just dropped another 100 days. So possible to anticipate that whether or not it's going to be all-time highs or not, it could just be straight, even if it's slowly consolidating up to the upside, we're probably going to get a nice little relief of at least, let's call it 50 days to the upside or whatever. You kind of start seeing some recovery. But regardless, these things take time. So, and always is this first period the scariest. I remember very well from these first few days, what was everybody doing right here when we were launching out of this, right? We're probably selling. selling, anything and everything, thinking we're going back down. You had a nice 20-30% run. Altcoins obviously, popped a bit, and people were probably selling out, starting to short, thinking we were continuing lower. It took a real hot minute before we actually started printing that daily, right? That higher high right there. You caught this higher low. Well, now you realize we're probably heading higher, and that was, probably like three weeks in. And it really jacks everybody up, right? Because you just went through 100 days to the downside, and then you're kind of just hoping and trying to, recuperate any maybe losses or anything like that. And then what did we see here? Same thing. This was actually a really good example of, had you just been putting stop losses, this would have been a really great trade, honestly. In general, this one was a little bit rougher over in July, but this was a solid, descending channel. You could have literally, shorted the low, shorted the highs, long the lows, short the highs, long the lows. This last one would have not worked out, but if you would have had a stop loss, right, you would have just got stopped out on a short position as well. And then you could have, went on from here. But what happens is we get these big breaks, and, it takes a hot minute because everybody, even just what we just went through, right? What is it? Bull trap this, bull trap that. And while those are valid, assumptions, you just kind of have to, we have to wait and see, right? So this, for example, this was a 16% move in 2 or 3 days, no pullback, basically ran up to about 36% with very little pullback, not really letting anybody get in that was sitting on the sidelines, or anybody that got liquidated on a short position, anything like that. So I bring those things up because it's very possible, right, that we're in that same position now. Just kind of keep an eye on everything. Once again, you got the levels to watch, so looking really for this 45K to break, hold this support, and then we're probably moving on up to 47K, right? This high over here, start closing pretty heavily above it. We on a daily, we have not, actually we might have very slightly. Okay, it looks, you got this daily candle yesterday, slightly closed candle body above. Either way, I guess it depends on how you want to look at it. If you're a wick person, if you're a body person, wick, obviously we put in a little higher high there, and then actually the body did put a slight higher high right there. So essentially we might be starting this daily uptrend. Another thing that I look for personally are these EMAs, right? I got the 55 in red, and the blue is the 20. And essentially, with these EMAs too, granted they're lagging, right? It's not that this is an end-all be-all, but this is just something to, if you backtest this, it's, right here you got this bearish cross, blue crossing over red, right? And you pretty much go into this pretty decent, downtrend, continued downtrend, right? Because you're already in one at the time you cross there. But generally, you continue down for quite some time. Over here, we had a bullish cross, right? And once again, while lagging, right, you already missed out on about 17% by the time this crosses. Realistically, this probably crossed, over here, so maybe you're even down, the move is already up 20% or something like that. But in general, you get this cross, and it does lead to, continue upside as well. And, so on and so forth. You got a bullish cross right here, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be, a sheer 100 days or anything like that. But you do get at least, I kind of back tested it out. It's like a 20 to 50 day window. Once again, take it with a grain of salt. This is just something to just add on to, whatever your analysis may be. But these daily crosses are pretty big, right? You see this daily bearish cross right here back in May of 2021, had a pretty big pullback. And then one of the biggest bullish crosses occurred back here. Can't really see that on TikTok, but that was on right before the run up from 2020. Regardless, like I said, they can be short-lived, whatever. We still got a little bit of ways to come on this daily, but I do want to point out, I put in the Discord last night, once again, just something that, not that this is something you should be solely trading on, but just something to, note. We did get that bullish cross right here on the 12-hour. Now, do realize that we could literally pull back to these 12-hour EMAs and still be, in that bullish scenario. But this would be that 15% pullback even, right? So a lot of times this is just like when you see those, everybody talking about a golden cross or anything like that, and then you get an immediate dump or a pump right around it because these are back, all this price action right here is averaged in, so that, a quick move to the downside is not going to change that. Also, that would be, holding that as support, take that down to that weekly pivot, that's definitely something that could happen, right? But did want to point out that we did get this bullish cross now basically on the 12 hour, the 6 hour, the 4 hour, every time frame below the 12 hour. So only one left is the daily, essentially. About to get the same cross on Ethereum as well. So once again, not something to solely trade off of or do your investing with, but just when you're looking at trying to gauge where things may go, could be an indicator, I guess, that's helpful to you. But once again, like I said, just take it with a grain of salt. But it's pretty interesting to note there. All right, so pretty much know where we're going with Bitcoin there. Let's take a look at ETH. So ETH, same deal, right? This is that 12-hour time frame once again. So we're about to get that cross here. I'm going to take this down a little bit though, right? So similar to Bitcoin, right? ETH and Bitcoin generally have the same, kind of main structure almost a lot of times. So same deal here, right? These orange lines is the high and low of the current range we're in. This is our monthly open right here, our weekly pivot from last week's untapped at the moment. And this is the point of control of the current range here. So it came down, right? We held the lows here, kind of bounced up, hugged the point of control for a hot minute, and then we've just kind of been taking the stairs straight up since then. We've got the range high coming right here. So, depending on what happens with Bitcoin, more than likely, we'll see, kind of the same reaction out of ETH and then taking it into the alts as well, right? So, same scenario here. We want to see this range high taken out, which is about, let's just call it 32K. And then you can start looking higher. If we do not, right, start getting rejected, start dropping a bit, look for this weekly pivot at, now this is a big one, right? It sounds like a lot scarier than it is because we're at $3,200 almost. And once again, we may not get these lows. This is the biggest thing right now is a lot of people are looking for decent pullbacks. We might not get that quite yet. But if we do, right, you do have about a 10% drop window here down to this weekly pivot. But we also have the 55 EMA for the 4 hour coming in right here, about 2,900, 3K. Definitely wouldn't get greedy looking for some of these lower low prices at this moment, right? Because that's how, you wait out for that next $50 move and it just takes off on you. Very similar to how in the trading group, why we were looking for, I think the next level we were looking for really big when we were coming down was right here. So 2081, it stopped at $80 higher, right? So don't want to get too greedy, trying to get the exact lows here, right? You want to scale in or depending, whatever this means for you, right? I'm looking at Ethereum. Obviously, this is a gauge basically on the entire market. So I gauge basically all my other altcoin decisions off of Ethereum and Bitcoin, right? Like if Ethereum starts dropping to the downside, I look for key levels for Ethereum to start making it to, and then I start considering, offloading or onloading altcoins from there, right? Like that's how I make and obviously there's targets and everything for these other altcoins as well. But if Ethereum is going to pull back, generally Bitcoin's probably pulling back, and if Bitcoin's pulling back, we all know what happens to the market there. So to the upside here, right, we got, what do we got above us? We got a quarterly. Okay, so we got a quarterly key level coming in right here at about 38.50. So that'd be the next, kind of major area I'd be looking for once we break and hold above this $3,200 range high. And this weekly pivot, by the way, is also our 2-year key level. So this is a big support coming in. So if we do fall to that, that just gives that another reason to kind of pay attention to this level specifically, about 10% drop if we get it, keyword, right? There is an NPOC volume target up here, about $4,000. And golden pocket, we're already through that. Yeah, so I mean, realistically, we break through this. If Bitcoin breaks through 45K, which once again, maybe it strains over for a few days, it's right under resistance, and we take that up. Let me take a look at some divergences here if there is any. There's not. Okay. So this looks good on both Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Because we're basically consolidating right at resistance. That's generally a sign of strength, right? We can come right through this. Once again, that's no guarantee, a probability. It's almost like, a pattern at the same time. But just something to pay attention for. And essentially, if you bust through this $3,200, you really got not too much on top of us until that $3,800. Just the same with Bitcoin, right? 47,000 will come probably pretty quick if we get above 45K. And yeah, so 38 and then 4,000 for ETH is not necessarily too far away, in my opinion, if we break through this $3,200. That's the biggest, simple as that, right? You could put an alarm, you could put an alert on this level, and kind of watch for that. Aside from that, you start pulling back, look for this pivot, right, about 28.86. Also the 2-year key level there. Big support right there, right? And then you got your monthly open, same deal. Living above the monthly open in your Gucci. You've got this low coming in right here too. So regardless, as long as you can come down to this pivot, you can come down to this monthly. You can even wick below it. You just try to, make sure, as long as we're not putting in lower lows right here, we don't got to start worrying about a downtrend at the moment. But we can still see those pullbacks, right, short term. I'll take a look at Trias. I do have a chart for Trias. I got to update it a little bit, but all right. So that's ETH. That's pretty much ETH. Looking for a break above 32. Otherwise, look for this. We're looking for this weekly pivot, possibly this monthly open. So we were looking at this falling wedge on Trias in the group, and then the same thing, right? We're looking for some volume targets. These are very, very, almost, I don't even say, there's no guarantees, obviously, but these are just big targets to pay attention for. Let's just say that. And essentially, we had this falling wedge right here. We broke out of it. And right above that is 2 major monthly point of controls. So just these 2 alone, without even having any other targets on here until after, these were the 2 areas we were kind of identifying, I guess. And then from this break so far, we got, that was a 50% run up. Obviously, if you've just been holding from the highs or anything like that, you're still off a bit before you start kind of getting back in the green. If you entered and just held the whole way down from when we originally entered around 870, you're just about back to break even on that aspect there. But yeah, Trias definitely a high risk, low cap. Definitely has a lot of potential, depending on how the market is, right? Though, so just like in many of those projects we were looking at the end of the year, a lot of those the projections were based on 200,000 plus Bitcoin. That did not happen, so obviously the market came down with BTC. But this is what we're looking at next. Basically, looking for this $9.40 range. RSI is cooling off, so could definitely get a little run here, especially, and everything's dependent on BTC as well right now, right? BTC pulls back 15% to those lows we were looking at. You're gonna have to, how this works, right? You're talking 20% to the downside for everything else. I don't necessarily think we're going to get that right off the rip. A huge, not that that's huge, but 10-15% in Bitcoin would be huge for the altcoins to the downside. Just the same way that you get this 20% move to the upside for Bitcoin, and you get these 50% moves out of the altcoin. So it definitely goes vice versa. But yeah, next thing I'd be looking for Trias would be this next point of control, about 938. Then essentially move it up to the high of this falling wedge, about $11, and then you continue from there. That's pretty much where we're at with that one. So I do post often updates about Trias, Xcur, a lot of the higher potential small caps in the Discord as well, for anybody interested there. So we did post this, like I said, right before this, not right before, but as we were watching for this breakout. Same thing, you can just put alerts on these trend lines, and then once it gets broken through, you pay attention to it, see how the market is, see if you want to enter it, and then have that run up. So Nord Finance was another one I want to take a look at today. I think Nord is another kind of a small cap. Near. That's what I actually meant to look at. All right, we'll take a look at Nord either way. We'll do Near tomorrow. All right, so Nord Finance, another just kind of smaller cap. So once again, high risk, small cap. on KuCoin, I believe, and essentially, kind of hugging this bottom here. We got the range low right here. You got our range high, and pretty much after this monthly level, you don't really have much in your way before this yearly open. All right, so you really want to see this monthly open kind of regained, held as support, and then kind of take it from there. This would be about a 45% move if this does come through, and from the point of control right here, which we're holding. It's also the weekly pivot here for Nord, right? So we had this run up, came back down, tagged the weekly pivot, has bounced since. But I'd be looking for this to kind of take over. It's about $2 right now, so this monthly comes in about 16 cents. So I mean, it's 216. I'm sorry. So this is a 10% difference at the moment. But that's kind of where the that risk comes in, right? If you're gonna kind of risk this to run it back to the top of the range or anything like that, because that would be our ultimate target to kind of look for. If we kind of come through, clear this monthly, I'd be looking for this yearly open. You're probably gonna get a little reaction out of that. On top of that, you got this 6 month here, and then you got the range highs coming in right here. So this would be something that I'm paying attention to. I'll just put it that way, right? So we came off, we had the range lows for a few days here, and then once again held the point of control, and essentially we start moving from here, clear this monthly, look for the yearly, and then ultimately the range highs. So this is once again a small cap, a high risk. Also with high risk, you got these high rewards, right? Possible 100% move there. CHR is a mid cap, right? CHR. So when you look at this, just kind of what we just looked at with Nord, right? Similar situation that basically just occurred, right? So you have, we were hugging the lows here, moved up. This is our point of control. So we hugged that for quite a bit. Once we launched from there, went basically to the EQ. There's also a key level that we ran into here for, we had a high time frame key level right here for CHR, so it came through that, didn't necessarily close above, and we're just holding that right now. We do have our weekly pivot for CHR right below here, and this is, if we see that from this point, about a 7 or 8% pullback. May not see it, right? That's one of those deals, but if you start getting rejected at this high time frame key level, which is about 66 cents, right about where we are right now, I'd be looking down to this weekly pivot, maybe this weekly level right below it, about 58 cents. And then essentially we're looking up towards this golden pocket area, about 76 cents, and then ultimately the range high at about 81 cents in the short term. Obviously after that, we've got some more key levels. All right, this golden pocket actually is going to be a pretty big target because we've got a yearly key level right at the top of it too. So about 77 cents is a big level to pay attention for. We definitely can assume we'll see probably a pullback or some sort of reaction at this level as well. So that's what I'd be looking for CHR. And like I said, very similar to what you could see a move like this coming out of Nord at some point here, right? And once again, Nord's a high risk, low cap, so just off the structure alone, not from based on anything else, but just kind of something I'm paying attention for. CHR is definitely a group, whether it's a group favorite or not, I don't know, but we've been trading CHR for like 2 years, back and forth, and it's been pretty good to us. Chromia, right? So, and this is a metaverse project. I think that they just getting involved with some meta games as well. All kinds of stuff coming down the pipeline for them. Okay, Epic. Is Epic a small cap? I'm trying not to do all small caps. Somehow I feel like I got kind of the smaller ones on my list today. 42 million. Yeah, so that is a small cap. Damn. Okay. Work on trying to do like a small cap, a mid cap, and a large cap from now on. Probably it's kind of the game plan I was trying to do. I didn't even realize that these were also just small caps. But Epic had a really nice setup as well. A little bit of a risk, right, the other day before Bitcoin took this launch. But this was probably one of the best examples of how to get involved at the range low. So essentially, right, Epic here. The other day when I posted this in the group, it was right here, right? We were just literally hugging this low. And generally, just similar to how when you're consolidating at resistance, A lot of times that leads to a break to the upside. When you're consolidating at support, a lot of times that leads to a break to the downside, right? So once again, it's a probability, it's not a guarantee. So that's a little bit, on the risk side, depending on how the market is and how it's going to perform. But at the same time, when you're at these range lows, with these ranges, which everything's always in a range for the most part. Essentially, you want to be longing or getting in. You don't even have to long on leverage, by the way. You don't have to get in on any of these on leverage. Look at these numbers over here. This is without leverage. You're talking 42% to the point of control. Is that the point of control? I can't remember if that was. Let me see what that is. High time frame key level. Okay, so that's a high time frame key level right here. You got your point of control, which is the next target, and then you essentially got the range highs after that. Not going to happen overnight, right? But essentially, this is how we oscillate through these ranges. The same way we came through here, right? You came in, you re-entered this range, right? You started hugging this high. Even though we came down to the point of control, we came back to the high. So at these highs and at these lows, with a stop loss, because one of these times is going to break, you go to short this, or you could sell it depending on how your strategy is, right? But you'd have a little stop loss tightly above this range high, and then you look for the range lows at some point, right? So then once again, this is not just overnight. This is probably several days here. We actually didn't even get the low on this exact move here. Ran it back, but then eventually did, right? And then essentially same thing. You get involved at these lows. You're going to get some, on a short trade, on a going long, this one probably would have wicked some people out. But if you re-entered here, right, and same thing, put your stop loss here, because when these things drop, it's not fun, right? We just saw basically the entire market just, drop out of some range. Like when Bitcoin dropped out of its $42,000 range 2 weeks ago, we went straight to 33. So I mean, stop losses, you can get wicked out here and there, and that's just trading, right? That's just how you're gonna have to deal with it if you're trading actively in that sense, or even just spot trades as well. If you're gonna be into any of these on a spot trade, this is a low cap too. So once again, not something you want to totally put a ton of capital into and risk at the same time. But you don't want to be holding this down, 200% or whatever, 50%, the deal. So anyways, you'd put a stop loss here, even on spot trade. But look at the reward, system here in place, right? You got a 42% move just to the, key level. It takes some profit at this level, takes them off the table. You got a 70% move up here to the point of control, and you got 155% move up here. And this is all spot. This is not on leverage, right? So Epic was a good example of that, because even though this was risky, because you wouldn't want to get in. You definitely would have had a stop loss, right? This is one where you really want to make sure, because the probability was more so that it probably would have actually fell out of this. But obviously, market turns around. That's the thing. You got to kind of feel out how the market's going. But Bitcoin got that move to the upside, so everything else did. So Epic is still kind of on that upward momentum at the moment. I'd be looking for this point of control here at about 23 cents, and then essentially the range highs at about 35 cents over time. VXV was another one that we've been really looking for last few days, and it's a mid cap too, not a small cap by any means. So down, beaten down pretty bad, right? Just like a lot of the other coins, this one doesn't have actually too much information on KuCoin because it just added. But I think this was up to $30 at some point, right? Obviously, do some research on it. But it's got a really low supply, and I think their burn rate is pretty big on it as well. Got some pretty big partnerships and things in the works, if that's something that you look for. But regardless, just on a pattern and a trading scale here, it kind of had this ascending triangle that was going right into this range low. So you got the range low coming in here, range high. You got your point of control right here. We actually have our weekly pivot. You see a little P right there, popping up right here. So we popped back into this range and then essentially came back down, held the lows, got that weekly pivot, and now we're holding basically right here. So I'd be looking for, you could once again kind of stop loss down below, if you don't want to risk this just kind of falling out. But essentially I'm looking up, right, to this point of control about 370, and then ultimately these range highs. There's some speed bumps in the middle, of course. And let's see what those would look like. Don't have them on here actually. Okay, I'll try to squeeze those in there. But regardless, just on a higher time frame, this is the thing. This is not a day trade, right? This is just something that you could enter and hold. And obviously, this asset's down like 80% or 70%, whatever it is from that. If it was $30, I believe was the high, or $25, whatever it was. So it's sitting at about 250, 260. So it's, as always, do your own research on it. Obviously, maybe don't put your whole portfolio in something like this, but dabble in it if you want. That's just what I'm looking for, regardless. Quant, take a look at Quant. Gotta fix my Quant chart, man. Magic Internet Money in the group. He's got a really great Quant chart. I haven't built mine out quite yet. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna build out that Quant chart today, and we're gonna do it tomorrow. I'll do Quant for you for sure. But I'll pop back on tomorrow, right? I'm going to do Quant, I'll do MTV tomorrow, and I'll find another good fun one for everybody too. But yeah, just basically, looking for Bitcoin to break through this range high here. That's going to be the green light. And what I mean by that is not just like this, right? We broke through it already technically. But as you can see, we closed back below. So you're looking for some 4-hour candles at least to hold above here. And then we're going to be probably moving up to the upside. But like I said, we get this hold and move to the upside. This could move pretty quick. There's really not much between here and 47. I know that's not like a huge move, so to speak. It's really not a huge move. It's 5%. So it just sounds big, I guess, because we've been at 35 for like a month. But so looking for that 47 and 49. I mean, that's like another 5 or 10% move. May not happen over the next few days here, right? So the biggest key is just looking for this range high to break to the upside. For downside targets, we're just basically going to look at reaction here at 42 and this weekly pivot right here about 4,500. And then you got these other two if we get there. But Bitcoin probably going to just range it out for a minute. Hopefully let these altcoins move a bit, and we'll continue from there. Hope everybody has a great day. Till next time, cheers.